Thoughtful Connections, a memory care podcast, aims to provide general information and insights about dementia and related topics. The content shared is not intended to be medical advice or a substitute for professional medical or clinical guidance. The purpose or goal of this podcast series is to help inform and educate family members considering memory care for a loved one. With us, as always, is Elizabeth Thompson, Arrow Senior Living Regional Director of Memory Care.
Well, hello, Elizabeth. You are looking fine today.
Well, thank you. That's a very nice thing for you to say.
Well, how is it that you continue to keep looking so young and I look older every day?
Well, I think you're just being nice because I am definitely getting older. I was thinking I've not ever had Botox. Maybe I should do Botox, but I think I may be too late. I need like filler.
I don't even know where to go with that. Okay. So anyway, well, what I was going to say, I think it's best if I just leave that Botox stuff alone.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
So luckily, so far, my aging is considered normal. So today, we're going to discuss the difference between normal aging and dementia.
That sounds great. I don't know if I would consider you normal, but, I'm glad we're having this conversation.
I specifically said my aging normal.
Yes, this is true. This is true.
All right. Okay. So you tried to broaden it a little bit too much.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay. Well, all right. So let's start. Let's start there. So why do you think that people struggle so much to tell the difference between normal aging and dementia?
Because I think that there's, aging in general does involve change, but I think that there's, that dementia causes a lot of worry for people. Memory is emotional. So if somebody forgets a name or somebody repeats a story, they automatically jump to, oh, it's dementia. It's dementia. Worst case scenario, in reality, that not all memory changes are dementia. Understanding the difference can reduce a lot of fear. We did it last night. I mean, you were trying to ask me a question and you're like, I totally forgot what I was going to say. Just having a lot on our minds can cause us, and overstimulation. We were in a really loud restaurant. Can cause us to forget things.
Well, I appreciate you using me as an example.
Well, I wasn't trying to be. I'm just saying it happens to all of us,
All right. Well, I'm glad that I could be your example then today. So let's talk about normal aging first, okay? So what are changes that are expected with normal aging?
So that's a great question. With normal aging, the brain just takes a little bit longer to process information, but it eventually still gets there. So some common examples are, forgetting names or appointments, but you're remembering them later. Like, you go into the grocery store and you're like, I've seen her somewhere before. And she comes up and she says, hi, Elizabeth, how are you? Oh, I'm great. How are you? Cannot remember your name for the life of me. And then finally, later on at the end of the day, I'm like, that's who that was. That's part of normal aging. Misplacing things like keys, glasses, but you're able to retrace your steps and remember where they are. Slower word recall, especially when you're tired or stressed. I know that happens to me a lot, even when we're filming, just like, okay, what's the word I was going to say? And it's just, nerves, I guess, and just a lot on our plate trying to knock all these podcasts out. But also needing more time to learn new technology. I think about how when a new iPhone comes out, I'm having to ask my kids, like, how do I do this? Well, in fact, last time we were here, I asked Colby, how do I turn off my notifications on my Apple Watch? I don't even know how to do that. It takes us a little bit longer as we get older. But the key thing is that our daily life remains intact. We can still manage our routines and make decisions and function independently.
Well, it sounds like what you described was more about speed and convenience and not necessarily ability.
Correct. I think anytime we have high stress, that releases a lot of cortisol, which can lead to memory lapses and difficulty concentrating. And I think that happens to a lot of us because we do have so much going on.
Sure.
So, yeah.
All right, then. So let's shift to dementia.
Okay.
So what is the difference? What makes it different?
So, one, dementia isn't just memory loss. And I think a lot of people think that dementia is just memory, and it's not. It's a progressive change on how the brain works, but it impacts, thinking, reasoning, communication, mood, behavior, but then eventually also daily functioning. It's brain failure. The brain is actually dying, and the neurons aren't able to communicate with each other like they used to. Some of the red flags would be forgetting recently learned information and not being able to recall it later. So it could even be what we ate for lunch and me not being able to recall it within 30 minutes later. Like, I cannot remember what I ate. Repeating the same questions or stories frequently. We all tell a story more than once. Golly, I know I've told the same stories on these podcasts a bunch of times, but when it's all the time, every time I am talking, I'm repeating the same story over and over again. Difficulty following familiar routines, trouble with judgment and decision making, changes with personality and mood. There was a couple that I knew that were going to marriage counseling because they thought their marriage was really falling apart, but it was really, the husband was early onset dementia, and it was a lot of behavior and mood changes that were causing them to seek marriage counseling when it ended up being dementia. Struggling with tasks that they've done their whole lives, whether it's making tea in the morning or coffee or even balancing a checkbook, financial things. But the big thing here is to know that these changes are big enough, worrisome enough to interfere with daily living.
That interference part, that sounds like a very important piece.
Yes, because dementia affects dependence over time, while normal aging does not.
Okay, all right. So if you had to sum it up simply, the difference between normal aging and dementia, how would you explain it?
So normal aging, I forgot, but I'll remember later. Dementia, I forgot, and I don't realize that I forgot. So with dementia, the brain's ability to store and retrieve information is impaired, not just slowed down.
Yeah. So I can see why this time can be scary for families. So what would you want listeners to remember?
To not panic, slow down, don't panic. One moment or one mistake does not equal dementia. Second, pay attention to the patterns, not just isolated events. When you were faced with your mom repeating the same question over and over again, it was a pattern. It wasn't a one-off. Third, having early conversations, seeking out, doctors and finding out what's going on. Evaluations are powerful, whether it's normal aging or it's something more. Just understanding what is going on allows families to plan and support and come at it from a direction of compassion instead of being terrified and fear.
So when or at what point, when should they reach out for help?
I mean, if they're seeing changes or things are getting worse over time, definitely reach out and get some help. If it's affecting your relationship, and I think about that, the couple that went for marriage counseling, if it's something that's affecting your relationship or your job, your independence, or, especially safety, definitely reach out, see your primary care physician. But also, if your primary care physician thinks that there's something going on, then go ahead and get with a neurologist. If it's causing distress for yourself or your family, it's time to talk to a healthcare provider. And no matter what the outcome is, it's still you're ahead of the game because you are getting support and knowledge of what's going on.
So if it's affecting your daily living,
yes,
or affecting those around you.
Absolutely.
Affecting you or those around you, relationships, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And again, if you seek support, if you seek health care from a professional, no matter what you find out, it's still going to be the best answer.
Yes. And, a lot of times, let's just say, okay, if it is dementia, there are medications that you can start on if it's early enough in the disease process that will kind of slow the progression down. But if you wait, those medications don't work as well.
Right.
So that would be something you definitely want to know ahead of time rather than later.
Certainly. And so as we discussed before, so you can plan for the future as well.
Yeah.
So again, knowledge is power.
That's right.
How many times do we say that?
A lot.
a lot. We're kind of on a train here. So support definitely always makes a difference.
Yes.
So what final thoughts would you like to share with us today on this topic?
I think it's important for people to realize that, these things that can happen aren't always dementia. There are a lot of things that go along with that, whether it's a urinary tract infection or a lack of a certain vitamin, that's causing you, or your electrolytes being off. There's a lot of things that can cause similar symptoms. So don't always just assume that it's the worst. But when you're in doubt, get yourself checked out.
Well, having come from a family with dementia, it's always in the back of my mind, whenever I can't come up with that name, or whenever I catch myself telling the same story again, it's like, oh, is it or isn't it? Am I just getting old, or is it something else? And I know I'm not alone there. I think that happens to anyone and everyone probably that has a family history of dementia.
Yeah, I think a family history, or even just the fact that we talk about dementia all the time.
Well, I think you're probably right, because, just because we've done 82 podcasts now,
crazy?
I probably, just as a lay person, know a heck of a lot more about dementia simply because of doing these podcasts with you.
Yeah.
I'm no expert, but I certainly know what the signs and symptoms are of a lot of different types of dementia.
Well, and you've been a caregiver for your mother who had dementia,
right.
And that makes you an expert.
Well, it certainly was a character-building experience. I will give you that for sure. Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for your great explanation of the difference between normal aging and dementia.
Thank you, Charlie. It was great to be here with you.
Yeah, we had a great run, didn't we?
We did. I'm ready for season 4.
You know what? We'll be back for
Yep.
season 4. This concludes season 3 of Thoughtful Connections, a Memory Care podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
And thank you all for sharing your time with us.
At Arrow Senior Living, we believe in the power of a chuckle, maintaining a childlike sense of wonder, and defending the dignity of others. Until next time, this is Charlie Johnson with Arrow's Thoughtful Connections, a Memory Care podcast, wishing you fond memories filled with moments of joy. And remember, If you've met one person with dementia, you've met one person with dementia.
You can find Thoughtful Connections, a memory care podcast, anywhere you listen to podcasts.